It's homework time. Yes, happy. Homework time is here yet again. Let's dive right in the customary and appropriate fashion. Jotting our name down at the top of the paper. Don't want to forget that. I'll write my name. You write yours. And then for today's date, I'll write today, and you write the actual date. Our instructions for number 1, solve, period. Convert tenths to hundredths before finding the sum. Okay, so we'll look at that. Then we'll rewrite the complete number sentence in decimal form. You see it's given to us in fractionated form, another word. Problems 1A and B are partially completed for you, so let's look at those, see what we're doing. So we start off with 5 2/10 plus 7 hundredths. So to put them both then into hundredths form, make it easier to do that addition, and possible in a sense. 5 20 hundredths, the 2/10, 2 dimes is 20 cents. Okay. 5 20 hundredths plus 7 hundredths. Well, what would that be all together? So we have the 5 wholes. That doesn't change in this case. 20 hundredths and 7 hundredths. 20 and 7. 27 hundredths. All right, write it nice and small. And then here it's being written in decimal form. 5 2/10 plus 7 hundredths. We see that? And then we just go, we don't have to do this in between step in decimal form, just go right to our answer, which we already know, which is 5 27 hundredths, which we write as 5 point, and then 27 ends in the hundredths place. 5 and 27, where are we? Hundredths. All right, so let's do B then, which is partially completed for us. So 5 2/10, again, okay, plus 3 7 hundredths. So it's actually the same example, except now we have another whole number here. So what they do is they do this in between step and say, all right, let's add the whole numbers, because that's pretty straightforward. 5 and 3 are 8, okay? At the same time, let's take the 2/10 and again convert that, rewrite it as 20 hundredths. All right, so that's where the 8 and 20 hundredths comes from. And then we still have the 7 hundredths, which was appropriated with the 3 and 7 hundredths, but we added the 3 to the 5 to make 8. So now we still have that 7 hundredths to reckon with. And so now it's 8 is our whole number, right? And then 20 hundredths plus 7 hundredths is still 27 hundredths. See, so all that changed here was the addition of the whole number 3. So our starting off here is going to look very similar. It's 5 2/10 in decimal form plus, well, instead of just 7 hundredths, it's 3 and 7 hundredths. So 3 and means decimal point. And now a 7 in the hundredths place means we have no tenths. So it's a 0 in the tenths place. There are no tenths. And then a 7 in the hundredths place. You see why 3.7 would be, yeah, that's 3 7 tenths. That's a different thing altogether. And now we know what our sum is. There it is, 8 and 27 hundredths. So 8 and means decimal point 27, such that the 7 is in the hundredths place. All right, let's pick up the pace a little bit here. So now here again we have only one whole number, so we'll just rewrite that. 6 5/10. Well, we just did 2/10, so we know 5/10 is 50 hundredths. 5 dimes is 50 cents. Plus the 100th. Well, so then our whole number is still 6, and 50 hundredths plus 100 is 51 hundredths. We'll write this out in decimal form, same thing. 6 5/10 we write as 6 5/10. Look at that. 1 hundredth we write as a 1 in the hundredth place. So we have no ones, decimal point, no tenth, and 1 hundredth. And when we put these together, we know we end up with, oop, that should be a equal sign. Right? Okay, 6 and 51 hundredths. All right, and now here again, notice there's a mirroring here. We still have the 6 and 5/10, and we still have the 100th, but now it's with the whole number, 7 and 100th. So remember that in between step, we want to add the 6 and 7. Add the whole numbers, which 6 and 7 make 13. And 5/10 we can still convert to hundredths. That's 50 hundredths. And now we still have, because we added the 7 already, we just have the 100th to reckon with. So 13 50 hundredths plus 100th is 13 and 51 hundredths. You got it. All right, we'll just write that out in decimal form per the instructions. 6 5/10 still looks like, as it did in the last one, 6.5, 6 5/10. And now instead of just 1/100th, we have 7 1/100th. So it's 7 and decimal point. We have no tenths, so there's a 0 there in that tenths place. And then we have 1 in the hundredths place. And we know together they're going to make what? Yep, we already know our sum. It's 13 and 51 hundredths. Yes! Let's go on. Number 2. Number 2, very similar here. If you look at it, our instructions are to solve, then rewrite the complete number sentence in decimal form. You know, each of these, if you take a quick look, all 4 of them, yep, they all have a whole number with a fraction. One of the fractions is in tenths and the other fraction is in hundredths. So all 4 of these have that in common. So let's dive right in. We're going to add the whole, and we're going to go kind of quickly through these. So hang on to the handlebars, ring the bell, ring, ring. Here we go. We're going to add the whole numbers. 4 and 5 make 9. 9 tenths, and from this point on, I'm assuming you know how to do this. 9 tenths is how many hundredths? Yes, 90 hundredths. And that just leaves the fraction here of 10 hundredths to add in. And this is an interesting one because when we add them, and I'll do this in 2 steps, we still have the whole number 9. 90 hundredths plus 10 hundredths makes 100 hundredths. This is kind of the extra in-between step. And we know that 100 100ths is equal to 1, and 9 and 1 are 10. There we go. So now we rewrite this in decimal form. 4 and 9 tenths is 4 and a 9 in the tenths place. 5 and 10 hundredths. So we write 5 and means decimal point. Then we write the number 10 such that it ends in the hundredths place because it's 10 hundredths. So I write 10 ends in the hundredths place. All right. And we know our sum is going to be 10. And we could write it just as 10. That's perfectly fine. We could write 10 and 0 tenths, or even 10 and 0 hundredths, which would be more precise, but they're all equal. So there we go. All right, so in this one, 8 and 7 tenths plus 2 and 65 hundredths. Add the whole numbers. 8 and 2 make, 10. And then we're going to take that 7 tenths. How many hundredths is 7 tenths? 70 hundredths. Again, I'm assuming you can do this pretty fluently at this point. And then, of course, we cannot forget about these 65 hundredths we haven't added in yet. And this one's going to have an in-between step as well. You probably already noticed because it'll be 10 and, well, 70 and 65. I write it out if you need to. Can you do this by kind of decomposing the 65 and say, oh, 30 from that will make 100, which leaves 35. So 135. So 135 hundredths. And it's good to write out this in-between step. Even if you can do it in your head, you'll be less likely to make mistakes if you write it out. So this, however, we can decompose in our heads now because we've done this enough. So we know we're going to get this 135 100ths will be equal, and I'll write it up above here so you can see it. This right here is as a mixed number would be 1 and 35 hundredths, right? You see that? 100 100ths is 1, which leaves 35 hundredths. So 1 added to 10 is 11, and leaving us how many hundredths? Yes, 35 hundredths, which is our final answer there. Now we rewrite it in decimal form. 8 and 7 tenths is written as 8 and, decimal point, 7 in the tenths place. 2 and 65 hundredths is written as 2 and, decimal point, 65 in the hundredths place there. When we know, we can skip right to our sum here, which is 11 and 35 hundredths. So it's 11 and means decimal point, 35 out to the hundredths place. All right, 2 more of these to do. Hang tight. If you need a little break, pause the video. Go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, go eat a peanut, whatever. Take a little break, it's fine. Pause it and come back. I'm going to go on though. So we're going to add the whole numbers. 7 and 6 make 13. Now we have 3 tenths here. How many hundredths? Yes, 30 hundredths. You're getting good at this, I can tell. And we still, though, have this fraction over here to deal with, 87 hundredths. The space is requiring me to write small, although I could use the space better. Maybe I will in the next one. So we still have that whole number 13. And again, I can do some decomposition here to add 30 and 87 in my head. You can write it out, that's fine too. But I know if I take 70 from this 87, that'll give me my nice juicy 100, which leaves 17. So 100, 17. And those are hundredths. And again, I'm going to write it out here so you could see that this as a mixed number. Well, 100 100ths is one whole, right? 100 cents makes $1. And that leaves how many cents? 17 cents, 17 hundredths. All right, well, 13 and 1 are 14, and we have the 17 hundredths. That's our final sum. Now we'll rewrite it in decimal form. 7 and 3/10 we write as 7 and decimal point 3 in the tenths place. 6 and 87 hundredths we write as 6 and decimal point 87 out to the hundredths place. We know our final sum. Here it is. It's 14 and 17 hundredths. So 14 and means decimal point, 17 written out to the hundredths place. Beauteous. And so here I'm going to be a little smarter with my space here and write underneath. So the 5, notice, woo, trickery, they put the hundredths first. They just reverse the order because they don't have to be in any order, right? Addition is commutative. So I can write this as 5. Oh, actually I don't want to do that. Right, I want to add the whole numbers first, right? So 5 plus 7, sorry, my mistake. 5 plus 7 is 12. And I can leave the 48 hundredths as it is. But that 8/10 I want to rewrite as hundredths. I want to convert it into hundredths. So 8/10 is, 80 hundredths. And now to add those, well, okay, I have 12. And again, I can decompose 48 to make a nice juicy 100 easily here. 20 with the 80 will make 100 hundredths, which is 1. In fact, I can go right to the mixed number here, which is 100 hundredths, which is 1, which took 20 from the 48, leaves, right, 28 hundredths. So put those together, 12 and 1 make 13, and I have this 28 hundredths. So to rewrite this in decimal form, going back to the original statement, it's 5 and 48 hundredths. So 5 and means decimal point, 48 written out to the hundredths place, plus 7 and 8/10. 7 and means decimal point, 8 in the tenths place. And I know what my final answer is. It's 13 and 28 hundredths. So 13 and means decimal point, 28 hundredths is 28 written out to the hundredths place. And just one little side note, this is why at least I, and probably your teacher too, are such a stickler at the beginning here that you don't say things like if you have the number 109, that you don't say 109, because in math language, in math, we reserve and to show fractions and decimals, decimal fractions, okay? So that's why we were sticklers that you would say 109, 1,200 instead of 1,200. We throw in ands in common speech and in writing, and that's fine, but when we're in math class, we speak a little bit differently. We speak the math language. So and is reserved for this. All right, let's go take a look at number 3, which although it has a bit going on with it, is our final example in tonight's homework time. Let's do it! It's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's a happy feeling you're growing inside. And when you wake up ready to say, isn't snapping your fingers a beautiful thing? Mr. Rogers used to do that all the time. Try it. It feels good. And if you can't snap your fingers, just go click, 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 click. It's just as much fun. Who needs to whistle? Solve by rewriting the number sentence in fraction form. Okay, see, so we're giving it in decimals on all 4 of these. And you see this one they've done partially for us. Swell fellas that they are. Started it out. See, okay, this is what we mean by writing it out in fraction form. Okay. Then after solving, so we'll find a sum, we'll add. Right? And after we do that, we'll rewrite the complete number sentence in decimal form. Okay, although part of it they already did. So here's how I'm going to approach that, okay? So I have this 2 1/10 plus 87 hundredths, all right? Well, so I'm going to continue on the next line here, use my space wisely. So, okay, well, 2 and 1/10, 1/10 is, yes, 10 hundredths, so it's 2 and 10 hundredths. And notice I only had one whole number here, so I don't have to worry about adding those, although in the other three I do. And then that's plus 87 hundredths. They start us off kind of in an easy way here. So whole number, 2, 10 hundredths and 87 hundredths. Got it, 97 hundredths. So to rewrite this whole thing in decimal form, I'm just writing what I started with, the 2 and 1/10 plus 87 hundredths equals, and perhaps your teacher will want it differently, but I know of my students, I would not want them to do all of these steps here in decimal form rather, because, well, it's kind of pointless. And in the previous examples we did not do the in-between steps in decimal form, just the add-ins and the sum. So that's what I'm continuing with here. If your teacher requires differently, then you do it that way. So this is 2 and 97 hundredths, right? We have there. Okay, so let's do that with this one. And this one, actually, I'll make that last step even easier because I'll leave that alone up top. So it's 7 and 2/10. 7, fraction form now, 2/10, right? Because I have to rewrite it in fraction form. Plus 2 and 67 hundredths, which that's pretty straightforward to write that as a fraction, isn't it? Now here, what I'm going to do first, as we did in the previous ones, I'm going to add those whole numbers. Now if you didn't, see, this is a beautiful thing about what we do with Eureka Math. There are some beautiful things, is that if you didn't, you would just do it later. It's fine. See, because you understand what you're doing, which is more important than memorizing the steps to follow. Well, let's do it now. 7 and 2 make 9. 2/10 is how many hundredths? It's 20 hundredths. And then we have that 67 hundredths to deal with. So let's put those together. Well, we still have the whole number 9. 20 hundredths and 67 hundredths is 87 hundredths. Now there we go. To write it in decimal form, that part's already written for me, so I am not going to duplicate. I'm just going to write equals, and then my answer, 9 and 87 hundredths. And I hope your teacher is accepting of this method as I am. If not, then do it their way. It's fine. All right, let's rewrite this one here in fraction form. And notice that we're only dealing with tenths here. You see, there are no hundredths. So we don't need to convert tenths to hundredths because we have just tenths. Everything's beautiful. All right, so it's 7 and 3/10 plus 1 and 8/10. See, we don't need to go to hundredths here. We can just say 7 and 1 make 8. And now we have a little something to reckon with here. 3/10 and 8/10 is 11/10. But boy, we've dealt with this before, right? I'll break it down step by step here in case you kind of forget what we did in fraction land. But so we have 8 and then 11/10. Well, 10/10 is 1 whole, which leaves 1/10. And so we can then write 8 plus 1 and 1/10. Well, 8 and 1 make 9, and we have that 1/10. There we go. So again, to rewrite the thing in decimal form, there are my add-ins. I just need to write my sum, 9 and 1/10 in decimal form. All right, so let's go ahead and do this last one here. 7 and 3/10 plus 1 and 86 hundredths. And you see now we do have tenths and hundredths. So let's go ahead and add the whole numbers. 7 and 1 make 8. 3/10, we need to convert this to hundredths because the other number is in hundredths, okay? We can't really add them too effectively otherwise. So 3/10 is 30 hundredths. And then, of course, we have the 86 hundredths still to add. So that would be 8. Well, let's look at this. I can decompose the 86. I need 70 to add to the 30 to make 100, right? In fact, I can go right to a mixed number here and save some writing. So take 70 out of here, that gives me 100 hundredths, which is 1 whole. I took 70 out from 86, that leaves how many hundredths? 16 hundredths. Okay. So we can put these two partial sums together. 8 and 1 make 9, and then, yeah, we have 16 hundredths. So to rewrite this in decimal form, well, there are add-ins. We just need to add the sum of 9 and 16 hundredths, so 9 and means decimal point, 16 out to the hundredths place. Pretty good. And whew, they're making us work tonight. Painting like a dog. We got 4 more of these to do. Or maybe 2. Is it 2 or 4? Well, let's go check it out. Hi, neighbor. Yeah, there are 4 to do. So let's suck it up, buttercup, and get them done. All right, so each of these we're going to rewrite in fraction form, solve, and then write the sum as a decimal. And if you take kind of a quick look here, look, we have hundredths and hundredths, okay. Hundredths and tenths, tenths and hundredths, hundredths and tenths, and in all cases, all of the add-ins have whole numbers as well, okay? Just to kind of give us an overview. Let's dive in. We're going to kind of whip through these, so hang on. All right, so please keep your hands inside the car at all times. All right, 6 and 7 hundredths is 6, we're writing in fraction form, and 7 hundredths. And 3 and 93 hundredths is 3 and 93 hundredths. You say them the same way. And this you could probably tell is going to be an interesting one already. They're already both in hundredths, so we don't need to convert anything. So let's add those whole numbers. 6 and 3 make 9. And you probably clicked right in and saw, or do you see it now? 7 and 93, that makes 100. So 9 and 100 hundredths equals what? 10. Yes, it's 9 and 1 make 10. Now, here's what I prefer to do. I think if you're given a number out to hundredths place, you maintain that level of precision in your answer. So I would write the, not the fraction, but the decimal answer as 10 and 0 hundredths because we were given add-ins out to the hundredths place. This is kind of more scientific than mathematical principle, but I think it holds. So that's how I would write this answer. 10 would be correct, but this is more precise. All right, let's write the next one in fraction form. 6 and 87 hundredths plus 3 and 9 tenths. There we go. That's why the first lesson we learned how to read decimals, because that helps you to write them as well. So let's do it. 6 and 3 make 9. We have 87 hundredths here, right? And then we're adding to it 9 tenths, but let's convert that right to hundredths. So it would be 90 hundredths. And we can use that same mental decomposition method to add these numbers. So we have 9 wholes. And then from the 87, we see if we take 10, it'll give us a nice juicy 100 hundredths here, which I can even go a step further here in my head and say, well, 100 hundredths is 1. So I can write this as a mixed number, 1 whole. And remember, I took 10 from the 87 to get my nice juicy 100. So that leaves 77 hundredths, right? We see that? 87 minus 10 is 77. And now when we add these up, 9 and 1 make 10, and we have 77 hundredths. All right, so now all I have to do to write the complete sentence in decimal form, this part's already there, so I'll just pop onto it the sum of 10 and 77 hundredths. All right, next one. We start with 8 and 6 tenths. We're adding to that 4 and 67 hundredths. Add the whole numbers first. 8 and 4 make 12. Good. 6 tenths converted to hundredths. 6 tenths equals, yes, 60 hundredths. You're getting good at this. And then we still have the 67 hundredths to add in. All right, so let's do that. So we have 12 wholes still. That hasn't changed yet. Now, we can decompose the 67 to get to our nice juicy 100. All right, so we'll add into this. Well, we'll take 40 from the 67 to make 100 hundredths, which is 1 whole. Right, we can go that mixed number route. We took 40 from the 67, which leaves 27 hundredths. Good, good. And now we can put these partial sums together to get a final sum. 12 and 1 make a 13, and we have 27 hundredths, which we just need to add on to here as a decimal. 13 and means decimal point, 27 written out to the hundredths place. 13 and 27 hundredths. Last one, y'all. Whoo doggies. All right, let's do it. 18 and 62 hundredths. and we're adding that to 14 and 7/10. Okay, and these numbers being slightly larger makes no difference. In fact, if you look at the last one, it was 8 and 4, and now it's 18 and 14. Almost, and the decimal portions are very similar as well, almost as if to prove to you, like, look, this doesn't get any more difficult. You're doing the same thing. You might have to think a little bit more to add, but no problem. So, in fact, one way to look at this addition is decomposition. To look at the 18 plus 14, well, look, hey, 2 from the 14 gets me to a nice juicy 20 here, leaving 12. Can I add 20 and 12 in my head? 20 and 12, you got it? 32. See? That's one way to do it. There are other ways. The 62 hundredths I'll leave as is for now, but the 7/10 I want to, that's right, convert to hundredths. It's, you got it, 70 hundredths. Like I said, you're getting good at this. All right, so 32, let's leave as it is for now. 62 hundredths plus 70 hundredths. Well, again, I can decompose that 62, take 30 from that to give me 100 hundredths here, which is equal to 1. I took 30 from the 62 hundredths, which leaves 32 hundredths. Very good. And so when we put these together, 32 plus 1 is 33, and we have 32 hundredths. Now to write that as a decimal up here, to have the complete decimal sentence, we write 33 and 32 in the hundredths place. 33 and 32 hundredths. And look what you gone done. You completed yet another homework time. I will happily see you again next time. It is once again homework time.